everyone. Today we're going to be talking about what happened in 2020. What a tumultuous year it was for everyone. We're going to be asking Miguel here, one of the best lawyers in Marbella, about how his year was. So Miguel, over to you. Should we just forget about it? I'm quite interested in sort of transaction levels. Don't need to know numbers, but in terms of how much quieter it was, what type of clients we were getting through the doors. Because obviously we have a real estate practice, you have a legal practice. Yours is probably more typical of the type of clients generally that estate agents were getting. Tell me about your year.
Well, the year 2020 has been very different from one month to the other, right? The beginning, the months of January and February were looking to be very promising because the level, the quantity and the quality of the clients was really increasing very much, significantly in respect of the year before, 19. And so therefore every prediction and every expectation from the market was really, really high, up to a point in which we had to stop dramatically the country. But not just the country, but also Europe, and then afterwards a few weeks after the world. So that happened actually by the mid of March, in which the market completely stopped. With no possibility of really going out for anything, and the police was really stopping you in every roundabout, asking you very, very serious questions. Also impossible, right? So the months of mid March, full April, and mid-May were completely stopped. No activity, no activity in no field of the economy at all. And then after that, everybody was asking themselves, what is going to do the market after the lockdown is not there anymore? And the market reacted very well. We had a very good summer in which people were starting to come over with this big positivism and with a lot of pragmatism, I would say, in order to analyze the situation in a very mature way, analyzing not in a panicking way, considering that this was a temporary situation, that this is gonna end, and therefore whenever this is over, the weather is going to be still fantastic, the infrastructure that we count with is still here,
all the fundamentals,
and therefore they had no hesitation to buy properties within the months of summer. Then after that we all experienced the second wave that came slowly, but then in every country again we had to face against limitations and lockdowns, and in one way or the other traveling was much more restrictive. And then we saw months of September, October, November much slower, but I have to say that not dead. So every week we had clients all the way.
Well, I'm so relieved you said all that, because that's a mirror image of our year as well. And we found that in the summer, when it was very busy, we had about 6 weeks burst of activity. And what we noticed differently to other years is that the people that were here were really determined to buy. It's almost like they'd done all their research online while they're in lockdown, looking at properties and maybe doing some video tours, so that when they came here, they were in a much stronger position, much further down the sales process. Absolutely. So our conversion rate doubled in that time. So it meant that we were busy, but we were busy with quality clients, which of course is what we all want. Which nations have sort of remained strong? Is there any pattern that you've seen over 2020 where some nations have been more bullish and determined, and some have hung back?
I would say every nationality. The situation today in Costa del Sol in general and in Marbella in particular is that we are a very diversified market at the moment. We don't have really a nationality that occupies more than 50% of the buyer's market as it used to be with the a few years ago with the British and Irish market that were more than 50%. But now every country, every nationality, British, they do still represent a good portion of the buyers. And but Scandinavian and Dutch, Belgian, even French. So I could say every nationality.
Yeah. What about budget levels? Have you noticed any swing towards the higher end of the market or the lower end?
I would say that the mid to high end of the market has been more busy. On the months of summer, by July, August, those really months that the market was really busy.
Yeah.
The budget was higher than it used to be years before.
Yeah, we noticed that as well. What about developers? I mean, obviously we can talk about the real estate side, we can talk about the legal side. You obviously deal with developers as well, whether you work alongside them or against them or whatever, but have you noticed how their year has gone? I mean, how are some of them still in business is what I want to know, because they obviously haven't been able to sell a lot of their product. Have the banks been kind to them and extended credit facilities, or have developers been well financed enough to just take it easy, swing into the next year? What's the attitude out there with developers?
Well, I think actually the developers, as well as any kind of business activity, is really working on a program, on a plan that depends on the number of sales, that depends on the performance that's got to happen every year. And if you don't achieve that, then that compromises your business, your company somehow. Developers are not really an exception, and they've been really suffering a very important drop of what predictions were by the month of the spring. The spring didn't happen, actually. It was really a no spring.
Yeah.
And then in the summer, as I said, the recuperation of the market was for a higher type of budget. So those developers that they were selling properties in the region of 200,000 euros, 300,000 euros, they've been suffering very much more because they had a spring that didn't exist, and they had a summer that they didn't have that type of strong client there anymore. So therefore, they've been suffering. The developers have been using. I know them all, and I've been talking to them how they've been overcoming this situation. The government was really giving the facility of some kind of aids, some kind of loans to pass through this crisis. This is really 90% backed by the government. So you can go to the banks and apply an eco loan, which is ICO. ICO means that 90% of the loan was backed by the government, 10% was under the the risk of the developer itself, and this was really a help to pass 2 years, 3 years with a very low interest rate, with a very easy and quick to approve, because it's not that difficult to approve a loan when 90% of that is subsidiary responsibility of the government. So therefore the banks were very much more easy and quick and fast to approve those type of loans, and I think that all of them, without any exception, have been using those ICO loans to go through this temporary situation.
But that's an easy credit rather than a handout. It's not a giveaway from the government. It's something you have to pay back as a developer.
Yeah, you have to pay back.
Okay, so Miguel, what are we expecting in 2021? And let's not sugarcoat this. We know that a lot of nations at the moment in Europe are undergoing another hard lockdown. Our business is mainly with foreigners. How do you think 2021 is going to evolve? What are you expecting?
Well, I'm actually having good expectations, because we have something that is important in every field of business, which is visibility. We didn't have that visibility within the months of March and April. We didn't know what was going to happen, how much time the vaccine was going to be taken to be approved, to be invented, to be finally in the society. But now we have a visibility. It's true that we are now in the middle of the second wave, or kind of second to third wave, but it's also true that we have a number of vaccines that are approved, and they are all in the society. In some countries quicker than others, but they will all be. So my belief is that the first quarter of 2021 is going to be very similar to the last quarter of 2020.
I agree.
Which is not a dead market. It's a market that still operates in a lower and slower rhythm that is expected by everybody, but it will still bring some deals, some operations.
Yeah, agreed.
With the pass of the time and having a priority of the elder people to be vaccinated, I think that the biggest consumer of beds in a hospital are the elder people. And at the moment that they are vaccinated, they will not become that big customer of the hospital anymore. They will start using less and less the hospitals. Intensive cares will be much better, and therefore that will give gradually and progressively an improvement in the perception. And I think actually that the lockdown will not really make more sense, because it doesn't make sense you to stop the economy and to have a complete lockdown if the people that are infected are having just very mild symptoms or very mild fever. You don't stop a country for something like that. You stop a country with big consumers of hospitals are really collapsing the system, right? Exactly. So that's really my opinion, that the first quarter is going to be bad, but then after that, progressively, it's going to go better. Second quarter will be, I think, a very lighter and lighter.
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, we noticed last year in the summer when we talked about the busy summer that we had. I think it was a 6-week period when people could get here, and the buyers were much more serious. And I'm expecting something similar in quarter 2 and quarter 3, where we know, because we're speaking to clients every day, we know we have a lot of clients that want to buy here, but they just can't, or they don't feel comfortable traveling at the moment. So I'm expecting in quarter 2 and quarter 3 a similar thing to what happened in the summer just gone, where we get a lot of clients all of a sudden. You know, they're all able to travel, they all book their tickets, and they all come and see us, and we're busy. And I expect also the quality of the clients to be very high, because they've had so much time to do their research with us and with you, and so I do expect a little mini boom. You know, I think it will feel like a boom. I don't think it will be, but it will feel like a mini boom compared to what we've all been through. And I think that will happen, as you said, progressively over, quarter 2 to throughout the rest of the year. Do you expect any changes in sort of buying patterns, whether it's the nationalities or whether it's the budgets again? Do you think we'll see an increase in the higher end, maybe because of lifestyle reasons, people able to work from home, maybe coming over and deciding that this is the place they want to be based? Can you see a sort of change in the buyer patterns emerging?
I actually believe that it's going to be the mid to high end has not been suffering that extremely the circumstances of the crisis. The lockdown has brought very, very important consequences for many economies in many families. Of course, if you have a low budget and you have a low amount of savings there waiting to buy a second home, and you have the consequences of a crisis, you are delaying or postponing that decision about buying your second home. So therefore, I think actually that the low budget clients will not be as busy as they used to be in the beginning of in the year 19 or in the beginning of 2020. But for the mid to high-end clients, I really believe that we're going to have a mini boom, if we like, from second, especially in the third quarter, I will say.
More, when people maybe combine it with holidays.
More strongly, exactly. Yeah. You can combine buying your property and spending a few days of holidays, that altogether, that means more in its third quarter than in the second. Yes. But in the second, I think it's going to be very busy. That's the...
Okay. What about developers? obviously, developers out there who are in the process of building, they still have stock that they need to sell. What about new developments, something that hasn't been launched yet? Would you expect to see a lot of that sort of activity this year, or do you think developers are just sort of holding for now? Any land that they have, they're just not prepared to release it yet. It's too risky, or can you see some activity coming in the next year?
I don't think so. I don't think in new developments we are going to see them on this year 2021. And the reason why is because the developers, be a developer is quite difficult, because you have to be very strong in capital to become a developer. And then in the end, the developers that they used to be hundreds have become maybe a group of 10, 15 developers. They are all present in Marbella. They have all some developments going on, and they have a stock to sell before they decide to launch a new development. Okay. So I don't see from the typical developers that they are all present in Marbella them launching a new development when they still have for sale a good number of units in each one of them. So therefore, my expectations is them to use this mini boom to push sales and to.
That's interesting, because it says to me that we're not going to see a huge volume of supply. So we're not going to see an oversupply of stock. We'll have the developments that need to sell during construction, and we'll also have resale stock that private individuals want to sell. But on that front, there hasn't seemed to be any panic in the market. We haven't seen lots of new instructions from vendors, because I think most people are still receiving a wage, whether it's subsidised by the governments or whatever. So there isn't a huge need to sell. And I think it's important that when we do sort of start operating again at our full levels, that we're able to tell the market, we're able to tell buyers what's happening with demand and supply, because obviously a lot of buyers are going to come to us. We already have them speaking to us saying, we're expecting a discount from a developer, we're expecting prices to be lowered by 20-30%, and we're saying, well, no, because the fundamentals for that are not in place. We're not seeing an oversupply of stock, we're not seeing desperate vendors, maybe one or two, and we're seeing some price corrections, which are important, but it's not the market. It's not a distressed market.
Correct.
That's what I'm trying to say. And I think it's so to hear you say that we don't expect to see too many new starts of construction projects, I think is important while we get through the next year to try and sort of balance people's expectations in the market.
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay, let's turn to Brexit. We need to talk about Brexit, Miguel. It's been going on for years. You're sick of it, I'm sick of it. What do UK buyers of Spanish property need to know? I mean, we've been talking to clients on the phone and in person. We've now passed the deadline of the 31st of December 2020, so we're very early into this new relationship that the UK has with the EU. I'm guessing that nothing has changed insofar as UK residents can still buy property in Spain. There's nothing stopping them buying a property here. Is that correct?
Yeah.
But a few things have changed, mainly to do with the rights that they have to stay here and the length of time they're allowed to do that. And then there's also a few little tax issues, aren't there, that we need to address as well. So first of all, what has changed with regards to the rights of UK citizens to spend time here in Spain? So say someone's bought a holiday home and they've been spending all summer here or all winter here, or are they still allowed to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think actually there is a lot to do. There is a huge homework that had to be done by the politicians, by the regulators, legislation to be produced, that it didn't happen actually. Yeah. It's been days and weeks passing and approaching to the end of the year, knowing that the end of the year was going to be the Brexit, and a lot of things to be legislated in a normal way that didn't happen actually, and then here we are. That the Brexit means that the British are no longer treated, cannot be no longer treated as a European citizen. but no legislation is in place yet for many fields, right? So the situation today is that British can perfectly come over and can spend days. In theory, if as a non-European citizen, you can spend 90 days every half of the year, and 90 days another half of the year. But this has not been regulated yet.
So it hasn't been legalised yet. So there's no. So right now at this moment, they're not, stamping passports and seeing when you've been in, seeing when you've come out. And do you think there's going to be any deal on that? I mean, I know you're not a politician, but I know you're a very well connected guy. But far better connected than I am in terms of the Spanish people. But do you think they want to deal with the UK where people will be able to extend their stays? Because at the moment they're talking about visa-free travel. You don't need a visa, you just come in with your passport, but after 90 days in a 180-day period, you have to go again. Can you see that changing?
I think so. The thing is, I would like to see this changing quickly, because there is nothing worse than the legal insecurity, where people cannot really know exactly under what type of rules you've got to live, and you've got to make your plans of your family, right? Yeah. And they really expect the politicians to finally decide about regulating this kind of vague area that they have abandoned the citizens and now start to regulate. And start to regulate in a way similar to Swiss people, that they are free to travel to Spain and spend here as many days as they like without any restrictions. Are they members of European Union? No. And same thing with Norway. Norway is not a country of the European Union, but they are free to come, to stay without any restrictions. And those 90 days that do apply for someone from, America or Colombia, Argentina, that they are free to stay here 90 days, every block of 180 days, that they automatically have been applying and governing the rules for the British, just simply because the authorities didn't stop to regulate something within the months of September, October, November, up to a point in which on the 1st of January, everybody was traveling with very clear and written rules about how much time to spend. No, nobody has been doing that within the final months of 2020. Okay. And consequently, because nothing is regulated, we are assuming that a British can spend as much time in Spain as any Argentinian person that travels to Spain. But the common sense tells me that one day the politicians will sit to regulate what had to be regulated before, and UK and Spain have been countries with very strong links, and many British live in Spain permanently. Many Spanish people live. Yeah. Of course, a working permit is a different thing to get a working permit, but to live and enjoy Spain.
So retire here, for instance.
Like any Swiss, I believe that should be like any Swiss person, or like anybody coming from Norway. Okay. That should be common sense.
So we at the moment the rule, although it's we've fallen into this new rule, is that it's 90 days. You're allowed to come here for 90 days within a 180-day period.
Correct.
But we are thinking that there may be movement on that for people who want to come and maybe retire here, live here full time. Although we're not sure about the work permit situation, whether that will apply. Because obviously people who want to come here on holiday from the UK, absolutely fine. Nothing changes. Maybe spend a bit more for your mobile calls and stuff like that. For people who want to come here and use their holiday home for 3 or 4 weeks or even a month, no problem, nothing changes. It's for people who want to move here permanently that the changes are perhaps going to affect them most. Because at the moment, according to the new rules, you're not allowed to. We expect that maybe to be loosened, but the one thing that might be a stumbling block is if people want to come here and work, new people who haven't been here up until the end of the transition period. So we're still in a state of flux, and I imagine we'll talk about this again at some point in 2021. Have you noticed any sort of reaction from British buyers? Because I don't know how you've noticed, but over the last few years we've had times when British buyers have been interested in buying here, and then they've gone quiet because of something announced in London or something announced by the EU. Now I think people are reconciled to the fact that things have changed, but it's not all bad, that you can still come here, you can still travel here. Have you noticed any change in attitude from British clients?
Honestly, I have seen no changes. No changes. Maybe because the law firm, the field of the law that we operate, and the Marbella is a location, Costa del Sol is a location where people are not expecting to come over to work for a company.
Yeah.
They're expecting to come over to have a second home that they can spend a few weeks in the year for vacations and moving. And some people they are thinking maybe to become a resident in Spain in the future, to run a business, or to do something different. There are really formulas that they are giving the possibility for a British person, even considering that the British person is as non-European at all.
Yeah.
There are formulas to become resident as long as you can support, for example, if you want to do a non-lucrative residency, if you want to become a resident in Spain just to enjoy Spain, everything you've got to do is just prove that you can support yourself in Spain. Have a bank account, have a place to live, that could be even a rented place or ideally a place that you own. And as long as you can support yourself in Spain and you're not going to become kind of an illegal immigrant as a charge for the system,
sponging off the state,
you can perfectly apply and obtain your permanent residency. So therefore...
Is that feasible though? I mean, is that...
Absolutely. Okay. The thing is, this implies a commitment, a responsibility, because if you want to become resident, it's because you are expecting to spend in Spain more than 183 days a year.
Mm-hmm.
If you really want to apply that residency, you are committing yourself to spend longer than 183 days a year. If you are not, you can still use the system that applies at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
90 days and 90 days.
Yeah.
So if you want to stay in Spain longer, you can apply this. It's quite a straightforward process that we didn't do actually with the UK for many years because that wasn't necessary, and but can perfectly be applied and will be obtained without any problem.
Do you have to pass any exams or anything like that?
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
Just the having a clean criminal record and having health exams and having a health insurance as well in Spain. The application. Then you got to prove that you can support yourself in Spain. You have a bank account, you have a place to live, ideally owned place.
Yeah. What happens if you want to come here and set up a business? So you have a great idea and you think the Spanish people would be perfect as customers for this. Can you do that?
You can perfectly do that.
As long as you can, obviously you're not relying on any state aid.
Yeah, you have to put together a business plan that you present with this. You say, because that first... the first category that I have been explaining is that category of someone willing to live in Spain as a retired person, enjoying Spain, because that is one category. And the other category is that when you are really wanting to run a business in Spain. So therefore you have to present as well a business plan.
Mm-hmm.
Business plan of what you are willing to do in Spain.
But would you need to have any fixed amount of assets in your cash in your bank account here, or would you need to say I have 100,000 euros? Here you are.
Yeah, you have, to say that you can support yourself in Spain that depends, right? But then you have to have a bank account with recommendable 50,000 euros,
or an income from somewhere,
or an income where you can justify regular income that can support you and your family. Yeah.
Another route. Am I correct? Obviously, we have a golden visa system here in Spain, which is for non-EU nationals who want to settle here. Would that also apply to the UK now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
But the proviso for that is that they need to invest a minimum of 500,000 euros. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
We in the low business, in the low field of the economy, none of us was expecting to be at the beginning of January of 2021 thinking about doing a golden visa for British and without any regulation before, because as I was thinking always that in the end, on the second middle of 2020, authorities were about to sit together and then regulating in a similar way like Swiss or Norwegian people to put together a system in which you don't have to apply the golden visa. But as nothing was done on 2020, the reality is that you can apply a golden visa.
Okay.
If you acquired a property from September 13 and the property or properties are exceeding 500,000 euros in value, you can apply the golden visa, which gives you the golden visa is badly named visa because it's not a visa actually, it's a residency. The name is residency for investors.
Okay.
So if you are investing in shares or in government bonds or in properties up to certain capital, then you will apply and you will get the residency in Spain. In properties, it's 500,000 euros.
We're going to do a separate little video about golden visas, but what's interesting for me to know is that you can actually retrospectively apply it to any properties bought after September 13.
Correct.
So 2013. So that might be suitable for people who bought something after that date, looking forward to retiring, didn't get round to applying for Spanish residency, but now have an opportunity to do so via the golden visa.
Correct.
What about tax? There's been some mention of taxes, because obviously the UK is no longer part of the EU, that there are two different tax arrangements that Spain has, one with EU members and one with non-EU members. And I know there's some legal challenges to this from Brussels saying that it's not fair, that Spain needs to come into line and charge the same to both categories of people. But again, because we've fallen into this gap and new rules have automatically been applied, is there a difference now in the tax that British people are going to have to pay if they own a property here?
Yes, it's mainly there is a tax that you pay in this country is a bit higher than you used to pay when they were members of the European Union, right? There is something important. You pay your taxes in the country that you are resident.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you are resident in the UK, you pay your taxes in the UK.
Yeah.
The thing is, you can sometimes generate incomes in Spain.
Mm-hmm. So if you're renting a property,
if you're renting a property, or you are doing one specific business in Spain,
yeah.
The thing is, Spain was treating this with 19% tax rate. Mm-hmm. 19% was a tax that you paid to the Spanish tax authorities, but according to the double convention in between UK and Spain, that 19% that you have paid in Spain, you can use against your income tax declarations in the UK,
yeah.
Like accountable, fully accountable, and that's 19. The thing is, now we still have that double convention, UK and Spain. Mm-hmm. This hasn't been terminated because of the fact that UK is not a member anymore of the European Union. Mm-hmm. No, that is absolutely in place and is enforced. So that double convention says that every tax you pay in Spain is still accountable for my accountants or tax advisors in the UK. The thing is, they used to pay 19% in Spain in account of the taxes, and now they have to pay 24%.
Okay.
So the rate is higher, but you pay in advance in Spain, but it's fully accountable. So yes, you pay more in Spain, but whenever you go to your tax advisor in the UK to do your forms mm-hmm. and your taxes, mm-hmm. they will say, okay, you have paid a bit more in Spain already, but it's not gone money, it's not wasted money. It's the money that you have paid in account of your taxes in the UK. So the difference, if any, it will be less because you have paid more in Spain.
So you can use that to reduce your...
Exactly.
Okay.
So let's say if the taxes in the UK were 25%,
mm-hmm.
then you used to pay 19% in Spain and the other 6% in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you are not a EU member anymore,
yeah.
you pay in Spain 24%, and then the difference in the UK will be just 1%.
Gotcha. Gotcha. That's very helpful indeed. Okay, we're back to talk about the Golden Visa, which is something that some of you may have heard of as a way of investing in Spanish property and other things in Spain and acquiring residency in the process. And this may become applicable now to British buyers as a way of gaining residency in Spain, because that right has been withdrawn from us as we've left the EU. What is the Golden Visa? Just explain briefly what it is and what it gives you.
Yeah, well, it's badly named Golden Visa because it's not a visa; it's a residency, right? When this was approved by September 2013, was approved like a residency for investors. There were three categories. One of them by buying shares of Spanish companies. The other one government bonds. And the third one was in property, or in properties. Doesn't have to be one property, but several type of properties.
But that amount that you're investing, that 500,000, it has to be in cash, doesn't it? You can't use a mortgage. It's got to be your money.
It's got to be investment,
okay.
And then you really invest in property when you are using your funds to buy a property. You can of course buy a property of 1 million, and you invest from your own money 500, and from the loan another 500. The investment is considered those savings that you have put from your side into the properties in Spain, right? So that's your own money, and it's got to be in the price of the property. So it's not accountable what you pay about taxes and notary and land registry and other legal costs associated with buying the property. No, it's got to be price of the property or properties 500,000 euros.
And interestingly, this applies to any property purchase or investment made from September 2013.
Correct.
So this is where it could be particularly interesting for British people who are looking for a way of gaining residency in Spain. If they've bought a property since then and they've invested 500,000 euros, then it could be a way of doing it.
We can process the application straight away.
Who can apply for a Golden Visa?
Well, it's got to be a buyer or owner of a property or several properties, as long as they exceed 500,000 euros, like I said.
It has to be from somebody from outside the EU, is that correct?
Exactly, because the members of the EU, they automatically can establish residency in any country without any limitation.
Okay.
And then from outside the EU, then you can apply the Golden Visa if you prove that you have that property. It's got to be a property that is registered.
Yeah.
So it's not an investment that you paid a deposit of a property of plan,
okay.
and therefore not, because there is a document that it's got to. It's the most important document. It's the essential document in the application. It's a specific certificate that the land registry has to provide with that person owns a property of this much money.
Got you.
So therefore, the land registry only knows that you have bought that property when you have gone to completion.
Yeah.
So every money, every funds that you have invested prior to completion are not accountable for the application.
Understood. Up to now, who have been the main beneficiaries of this? Who've been the main nationalities taking advantage of this? Has it been Middle Eastern, Far East, Americans?
Yeah, I would say Middle East and also some Asian countries, China, India, Pakistan, but mainly Middle East, Qatar, Kuwait, Emirates.
Am I right in thinking that there hasn't been as much demand for this as was expected by the Spanish government? Or has there been a consistent?
Yeah, it's been consistent,
okay,
but not really in a huge way, I would say. So in the beginning, when this law came into force, there were different type of opinions about this was going to be a boom or this was going to be. So it's not been we can say it's a medium result of that. So it's not been booming, but it's not being low. So there's still ongoing and consistently applications of Golden Visa.
Okay.
And
Okay. And what are the main benefits? So how does it apply? So say I wanted to, I was from Kuwait or China, and I wanted to buy a property here, 500,000, 600,000 euros, and do that to get a Golden Visa. How would I benefit or my family benefit? What does it entitle me to? You say residency in the EU. So does that mean I can go and live anywhere in the EU? Or?
Yeah, of course. You're a resident in a country that is part of the Schengen Convention, and of course you are free to go to any other countries with no limitations. You can travel, you can drive to Portugal, France, and consequently any other countries without any problem. I would say that there are really two important pillars, two important points that made of this golden visa scheme really interesting. This golden visa in the end, like I am repeating myself, but is a residency. We have two systems of residency. That one that you apply as a non-lucrative or lucrative residency, in which you really commit with the system to stay longer than 183 days in the year.
Yeah.
And whenever you go to renew your residency, they can ask, and they will ask, if you have been really spending more than 183 days in the year. Because if you didn't, why do you want to have residency if you're not spending the time in Spain?
Yeah.
Go to the normal visa and spend 90 and 90, and you don't need the residency. So therefore, whenever you go in a normal residency to renew the residence card, they will apply the number of days that you've been in Spain.
Right.
And if you were not more than 183 days, they will not renew residency in Spain.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen with the golden visa. You are not obliged to stay in Spain longer than 183. 1 day is good enough.
Okay.
So you keep your status of resident in Spain by spending 1 day a year in Spain.
Okay.
And if you're free to be 364 days or 365 or 1 day, it's up to you. So that flexibility is really a big strength, because the people that say, I cannot really commit to be in Spain 183 days. I would like to be, but maybe this year I could be.
But I want the facility there if I
Exactly. In the other system, in the normal application of residency, you are having to commit.
You're obliged,
to stay in Spain.
Yeah.
In this system, golden visa, no. The other one is with the other system of residency. Once you are committing to stay in Spain longer than 183, you have to become as well fiscal resident in Spain.
Okay.
Which is not convenient for specific countries that they have a low tax regime. I say Kuwait, Qatar, Emirates. They have lower tax regimes than Spain. And consequently, the other system of residency, first of all, they cannot commit maybe to stay 183 or plus.
And they don't want to
and also they don't want to give up their tax regime that they have.
Absolutely.
So that system of becoming resident in Spain wasn't really ideal for some countries. But with this one, as you are flexible to stay in Spain 365 or 1, you can stay at your country with your fiscal matters, with your fiscal affairs at that country that you come from.
Okay, so if I get residency through the golden visa, does it expire? Do I have to renew it every 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah.
And how does my family benefit?
Yeah, first you got to see your family can benefit, because under the same application you can put your spouse and your children, as long as they are dependent, that they depend on you economically, financially, and they don't live in a different address, right? If they are depending on you, they could be even adults more than 18 years old, then they can be considered depending on you, and they don't live in a different address, and they live on. So that's the family, right? The full family. The applicant is got to be the owner of the property or properties, and under the same applicant, you have to sign a sponsorship agreement, which is that I commit to sponsor my spouse, my family, and therefore the family, the full family, is benefiting of the residency via this.
Okay. And then how often do I need to renew it?
To renew it is normally that you got the approval for 1 year plus another extension of 2 years.
Okay.
At the point of renewing that residency, you got to be still owner of properties exceeding 500,000 euros.
But you can have bought and sold and mixed them up.
In the middle of the way up until the extension date, You can sell, you can buy, but that date you got to put together again certificates from the land registry that prove that at that date of renewing you're still owner of properties exceeding 500,000 euros, and at that point they will give you 5 years time.
Okay, and is it? Are there any problems renewing as long as you satisfy those criteria?
Very easy. The applications work very efficiently and very quickly.
Okay.
The average of approval we have in 10 to 12 days time.
Wow.
Very quick because everything depends on the certificate from the land registry. You are owner of properties exceeding 500,000, and this is a very simple document, yes or no. And renewing that is very easy too.
My last question on Golden Visa is: at the moment the threshold is 500,000 euros. Do you think that's going to change upwards or downwards? I'm thinking because of the British situation at the moment that maybe the Spanish want to encourage more British people at maybe a slightly lower level to be able to apply for residency, or can you not see that happening?
I don't see that happening.
Okay.
I don't see that happening. There are no comments, there are not rumors, there are nothing that says this is...
Okay, good. Miguel, let's talk about inheritance tax. We always have this discussion once a year just to see, so I can tell if anything's changed. Has anything changed? Is it still the same as last year? And if so, what are the rules around inheritance tax?
Yeah, so no changes in respect of the last year. And then I would like to explain how this tax works. This is a national tax, but the authority and the autonomy to regulate about this tax corresponds to each one of our regions in Spain that are called autonomías. These autonomías, we can say they are equivalent of states in respect of capacity of regulation, in respect of really autonomy. Okay. So therefore, in Spain we have 17 different autonomías, 17 different states, that all of them with their own individual capacity of regulating about this. Okay. And
so we're in Andalucia.
Andalucia has been through different phases, been all of them improving. At the moment, we have we can say if the group number 1 and the group number 2, that the law says that the group number 1 are for children, and the group number 2 are for children, grandchildren, parents, grandparents, and spouse. They are pretty much kind of inheritance tax free. Okay. Because there are really different deductions, big deductions of €1 million in property and all of that. And then after that, when you go to the tax rate, this 99% free. So the amount is very, very small.
Because it used to be quite onerous, It was one of the things that put people off. It was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to pay.
Yeah, it used to be, and it still is regulated from 7.65 to 36%. Okay. So 36% is a very, very high top rate. And that top rate, you achieved that very easily and very quickly. But there's been 2 phases of improvements. One of them that was saying, okay, up to $1 million, as long as you are in the group number 1, 2, which is spouse, children, grandchildren, parents, grandparents, they could receive each one of them $1 million free of taxes. Okay. That was the first improvement, but now it's not that only 1 million, is that even after that, the tax, whatever the tax is 99% free. Okay. So that becomes
virtually nothing.
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay.
So therefore, the threat of big inheritance tax that was giving some people to think about how is my best legal structure to become owner of a property in Spain, because I want to become owner of a property, or I want to enjoy properties, but I don't want to leave a huge tax bill to my family whenever I passed away. So that dilemma of I build up the ownership using my UK company or that is not a dilemma.
Offshore company.
That is not a dilemma anymore, because if your idea is to leave the property or properties to spouse, children, grandchildren, you don't have to fear about taxes. Okay. Different thing will be if you want to leave your properties to somebody that's a nephew, or that they will be taxed. Okay. But not to the and therefore the very, very most of the families don't have that concern of inheritance tax anymore in Andalusia.
Is there any point then in somebody buying a property here in Spain in the name of a company?
Yeah, well, sometimes they buy in the name of a company because the company is that very one that has the resources, the funds.
Right. Okay.
And if the company has X amount of money in the bank account, it is easier that company buys the property and then it's used by shareholders and directors.
Okay.
Of course, having to pay the corresponding rental taxes, etc. Right? But sometimes it's more expensive. That you pay out dividend to that very individual that is behind the company to buy the property. So that's one of the reasons. But to build up a company with the only purpose, with the specific purpose of building up the company to try to mitigate the inheritance tax, doesn't make sense anymore, because the tax is pretty much almost zero if you buy in the personal name. So,
and if somebody wanted to discuss that with you before they purchase, you'd be happy to, or one of your team would be happy to speak to them about that. Okay.
Absolutely.
And the best way of structuring it.
Absolutely.
Very good, thank you. I want to talk to you about the running costs of property ownership here in Spain. So there's things that I can explain very easily, things like utility bills, which happen anywhere in the world. So water, electricity. We don't tend to have gas here, do we? Not often, but water, electricity. Community fees, which is something I'll explain in another video. What about the property taxes, though? So things like IBI, Basura, wealth tax, property income tax. Can you explain what those are and how much people can expect to pay? Well, I guess as non-resident buyers.
Yeah, the running cost of maintaining and keeping a property in Spain are very moderate, I have to say. We have a little bit of a higher stamp duty when you bought a property in Spain, but that is happening only once, it's one-off. But then after that, for the number of years that you have the property, that you are owner of the property, the costs are very moderate. And we can say mainly we have to look at the town hall with the property tax, which is equivalent of council tax in some countries. That's called IBI, IBI. And that is paid to the municipality, to the town hall, to become a property owner in that municipality.
What are you paying for there? Are you paying for the town hall services? The
town hall services that you pay. I don't know. We can say the streets, the services from the town hall that they organize. You know, we're now Christmas time, that they have Christmas parade, and all of that is paid by the town hall. And each one of the property owner in that municipality, in that geographical region, pays IBI according to the value of the property. So bigger properties pay more money, smaller properties pay, but absolutely all of them, without any exception, they pay the IBI to the town hall.
And who is that set by? Is that set by the individual town halls or by a bigger regional government or national government? Because I live in Benavis and I pay a lower amount than somebody would pay in Marbella with the same type of property. Is that because Benavis has just decided not to charge me as much, or is it because my property hasn't been valued for a long time? Or
yeah, well,
I know it's going to change. But
no, there is a system that is a base that works for absolutely everybody in Spain, in the nation of Spain, which is to apply a tax rate to a base that is called cadastral value. Cadastral value is a value that doesn't have anything to do with the real value of the property, with the market price, nothing like that. It's just the value that is used by the authorities to pay taxes, and it's called cadastral value. So the system to pay IBI is the same everywhere you go to in Spain. Cadastral value multiplied by a tax rate in which each town hall has the autonomy, again, to regulate in between this and that. So if you are putting the tax rate in the very, very minimum that the tax system establishes, then you pay little, like your case, Benavis. And then some other town halls, they say, okay, if I can go from, let's say, an example, 2 to 7, some town halls are in the region of 2, some town halls are close to 7. So you will find that the IBI in certain municipalities are more expensive than in others, having a very similar type of property, because that town hall of Benavís decided to be, in that example, around 2, and some other town halls they decided to be around 7. So therefore, the EB of similar property could be different depending on the town hall. Yeah.
Why don't they charge more? Why don't they apply a different coefficient and get more money?
Why don't they apply more? You mean
like Benavís? Why don't they charge me more money?
The town hall has considered that the EB is not really the biggest collection of funds and taxes in a town hall. The biggest part is when if you compare what they collect with the EB, with the type of money that they make when they approve a building license. EB is nothing. So therefore the town hall of Benavís is very rich because they have a very huge municipality in terms of region. It's very, very important, and they approve many developments, and they are one of the most well-known and reputable urbanizations in Spain are in Benavís. So they have big money, and they can afford to charge little money for the EB, because the EB is for absolutely everybody. For the very, very low budget families to the super rich families, because everyone that owns a property in Spain has to pay EB. So therefore, it's in a way to say, okay, if we have a town hall that is very rich already because of many new urbanizations, many new building licenses, many new things happening, why don't we reduce the EB that is gonna give a favor to those families
of our people?
Exactly.
Poor people like me. What about Basura? Because what people are always amazed about here in Spain is the quality of services from the refuse collection. In England, you get your bins empty once every 2 weeks if you're lucky. Here, it's like every day. It's magnificent, but again, very cheap.
Yeah, like I said, this is strictly the cost of the service without any, we can say, any fat on on top of that. And yes, the garbage collection is quite, I would say, cheap.
And again, it kind of ranges in Marbella, maybe 180 a year, something like that, is it?
Yeah, it could be even less. Could be even less.
Tell me about these other taxes that are a little bit of a grey area, and estate agents don't like talking about them too much because we often get ourselves confused. Wealth tax, property income tax. Tell me about those.
Yeah, they're really, the wealth tax is a tax that is again a national tax, but every single state has the autonomy to regulate. But there is something that everybody that owns less than 700,000 euros is free. It's completely free. And so therefore you got to, if a property is owned by 2 owners, we can say a couple, then the property has to exceed 1.4 million euro to start to pay.
Because they each have an allowance.
Exactly. Gotcha. So therefore it's not really a tax for every type of property owner. It's a tax for property owners exceeding a net equity of 1.4. And I say net equity because the property, if you have a property of, let's say, 3 million euro, but you have 2.6 3 million euro, and you have 1.6 in mortgage, then the net value is 1.4. 1.4 divided by 2 owners, because it's a couple, is a tax-free. So then you can really go to, and I'm giving you an example of 3 million euro with a mortgage of more or less 50%, which is very normal, and they still don't pay wealth tax. So the wealth tax is really something to be considered and to be discussed individual by individual, depending on the case. But it's not a tax that makes an impact to the very most
buyers.
No.
And the wealth tax, do you have to declare your worldwide assets for the wealth tax calculation, or just in Spain?
Spain.
Just in Spain. Okay, great. What about property income tax?
The property income tax, which is again badly named in Spain non-resident tax. Because it's looking like there is a tax in Spain that is charged to every non-resident that owns a property in Spain. And that is not the case at all. Everybody that owns a property has an imputed income. Okay, an imputed income. Me, I'm Spanish and I have my properties and I have an imputed income of my properties. How much is my, and anybody that could be a non-resident has again an imputed income.
Okay.
How much is that? That is 1.1% of the cadastral value.
Okay.
Remember that we've been talking about the EB, that cadastral value that has nothing to do with the real value, with the market price, nothing to do, but represents normally a third, sometimes in between a third and 50% of the real value of the property.
Okay.
That's the cadastral value. So the system says if you use the property, you have an imputed income, which is the capital growth that property is having every year of 1.1% of that value.
Okay.
So let's say a property of 400,000 euros. Let's suppose that is cadastral value 200,000. 1.1% of 200,000 is 2,200 euro a year.
Okay.
That's the imputed income.
Yeah.
And that's imputed income for me as a owner of that property, resident and Spanish, and for any non-resident. What do we do with that 2,200? Depends who the owner is. If the owner is a non-resident from a country of Europe, 19%.
Okay.
19% of 2,200, which is, I don't know,
430,
yeah.
yes.
If the owner is a non-European citizen, and now including British, 24% of that.
Okay. But it's, for a property at that level, it's likely to be hundreds rather than thousands of euros.
Yeah, it's very small tax. It's a very small tax that if you are resident in Spain or Spanish, you pay that in your income tax declaration. There are many chapters in your form of income tax declaration, properties, and then imputed income tax there. Other incomes like salaries there, dividends there. So you have the several chapters, and one of the chapters will be the imputed income tax, which I explained. If you are non-resident in Spain, you don't have salaries and some other chapters, so you do a declaration which is very simple, in which you have simply imputed income tax. At this, with the same thing. Imputed income is calculated for absolutely everybody in the same way, 1.1% of cadastral value.
Yeah.
And then if you are from Germany, 19,
yeah.
Unfortunately, if you are from the UK at the moment, you still pay 24%.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. Okay, thanks for joining us, Miguel. I want to talk about buying off plan. So, because we get asked this question all the time, is it safe? How do I do it? And what do buyers need to consider? So, obviously, buying off plan is buying a property or committing to buy a property that isn't yet built. So, you normally pay a reservation deposit, which secures the property at a certain price, and then normally, once the building license has been granted, you sign a proper purchase contract in which the full details of the property will be explained, and also in there will be a targeted completion date. Is that correct so far?
Yeah, correct.
Staged payments, they are paid during the building process, aren't they? Normally normally the biggest chunk is at the contract stage, maybe 30-40%, and then maybe one or two other interim payments during construction. One question our clients always ask is that money safe? Is it?
Yeah, it is absolutely safe. It is absolutely safe if you follow the rules, and then everybody actually follows the rules in that respect, because the most important thing actually when we have a property that is off plan is what type of searches we can do at that moment, because we don't have yet a property that is finished, and we have a number of limited researches to be done. First thing is to make sure that the developer is the owner of that property, of that land, where that development is going to take place, and that land is free of charges, liens, encumbrances, etc. That is something that we can quickly do with the certificate from the land registry that will confirm they are the owners of a property that has no liens, no encumbrances. Fine. Second, can they sell that apartment to my client? Is it permitted? Is it fully licensed? and it counts with all the formalities around the building license. And that is where we have to do some researches. We have to see that there is a building license, and the building license has gone through all the formalities of geological survey that was done, okay? There is a 10 years guarantee insurance preparation in place, done. There is a contract with the OCT company, which is the engineering company that supervises every stage of construction work. That is already done. There is certain points that have to be done by the developer in order to get the building license, and we have to check them all.
Okay, just in case it's being built on a volcano or a coal mine or something stupid.
Yeah, it's got to count with all the guarantees, right?
Yeah.
And but the most important thing is actually that with the off-plan purchase of a property, we can check the situation of the developer at that moment in time, but they are not going to deliver that unit to you until 18 months time.
Yeah.
Many things can happen.
Absolutely.
We have seen this 2020, full of turbulences year, where your money is being paid to a company that doesn't deliver the property to you up until 18 months time. Spain counts with a system from the year 1968 that is obligatory to deliver a bank guarantee to the buyer equivalent of the deposit that you pay to the developer.
And what is a bank guarantee? Is it a piece of paper from a bank, or is it an insurance policy?
It could be. There are two ways to secure your deposit, and they are both permitted by law. In the first law, 1968, there has been a different law on 1999. So there are really different laws that have been regulating about it. But there are two ways: an insurance policy or a bank guarantee. The bank guarantee means that if the developer defaulted to deliver that property to you on the date that the contract says, you can go to the bank and cash the money. So the deposit that you paid, the VAT that is associated to that deposit, in property, 10%.
Yeah.
And also the legal interest, all the money is secured by the bank. The bank that says, if this developer defaulted to deliver that unit to you on this date of this contract, you can come to me, bank, and I will give you. So that bank guarantee becomes equivalent of a check issued by the bank, in which you can only cash it if the developer defaulted. You cannot go to cash it anytime, right?
Yeah, sure. That all sounds great, but does it actually work in practice?
Absolutely.
It does. Because you hear these horror stories of people losing money in Spain on off-plan developments. Is that because the developer didn't have a bank guarantee, or...?
Yeah, now it's not possible anymore, but there was a time in which some people said, I don't want to have any bank guarantee. Some people have said, okay, this is the price of the property, you have got to believe me, and so on. But in case that you want to have a bank guarantee, or the prices should be different, or whatever, and that kind of speech is not possible anymore, because the bank guarantee is something that even the customer cannot renounce to have. So you cannot say, oh, I don't want to have it. No, it's obligatory. It's obligatory for the developer, and it's obligatory for the customer. So therefore, there are horror stories of some developments in which they didn't give any bank guarantee because they wasn't even permitted. Like you can hear horror stories of people never been using a lawyer, and they've been believing what the developer was telling them without the land owned by the developers, without the building permission, without anything. But if you do properly the research and you make sure that the developer owns that piece of land and is unencumbered, and they count with all the licenses, with all the formalities, and you don't renounce and you demand to have the bank guarantee that covers your deposit, the VAT, and it's all well written and checked by your lawyer,
so hire a lawyer.
No risk.
Hire a lawyer and ensure that he or she gets the bank guarantees in place.
Absolutely.
What about buying before the license is granted? Because sometimes developers have special promotions, special prices for like a pre-launch where they're offering to sell properties, but before they officially have the building license. Would you advise against that, or would you advise clients, if they want to do that, to make sure that their deposit monies are held with you or with an escrow account Because obviously you
Absolutely.
can't get a bank guarantee for something without a license.
Yeah, the bank will never give to a developer a bank guarantee line without any building license.
Okay.
So therefore, the golden rule for this is never pay money to the developer, because that developer is not going to give you any bank guarantee because there is no building license.
So there's no liability on that developer to pay you back if anything goes wrong at that point.
Because number one, he is selling something that is not permitted.
Yeah.
And you don't know really if the authorities will finally permit that apartment like it's been projected or not. Maybe it's different, or maybe there is no permission for that. So therefore, the developer cannot really accept money for selling something that is not even permitted. Second, the bank guarantee is not possible because there is no. So if you want to do a business like that, the only way to secure that potential unit that could potentially be happening one day is in the deposit in an escrow account of your own lawyer. Okay. The money is sitting safe all the way. Yeah. When that developer already has the license and everything is okay, and they have a bank guarantee in place or an insurance policy, and they are in a position to sign a legal contract, then the deposit will go from the escrow account to the developer. But providing that everything is correct. Before that,
of course,
no.
One last thing about buying off plan is mortgages. Some people think that it's possible to finance the deposit payments during the build process, and we always say, well, no, not in Spain, because the only time that you can get a mortgage here in Spain is obviously at completion, when a bank or a lender can go in and physically check the property that's been built. So what some of our clients are advised to do is to use their own money, their own funds, whether it's savings or whether it's equity from their properties, maybe back at home, to pay for the deposit payments. I guess sometimes, of course, when you're looking at the world, how crazy it can be, 2 or 3 years down the line for something to be built, you need to ensure that you're ready if that property is worth less than the amount that you paid. If you've committed to buy a property at 500,000 euros and then at completion, because of economic climate or whatever, it's worth 400,000, and you're wanting a 70% mortgage of 500,000, you're not going to get it.
Yeah, well, this case is really quite remote because the price that you pay for the property, the type of commitment that you show to the bank of the deposit is there, right? So if the property price was 500,000 euros, the deposit is 30% of that, you have already paid 150,000 euros. Yeah. That's a commitment of your own money against that property. And that says a lot for the bank because that's your real money from real savings that you have been committing against that property. Sure. So, and then the second thing is that your capacity to attend the mortgage payments every month. That's really the other second condition that the banks are looking at. Two things: how much is your commitment with this property, and how much are your regular incomes to be able to pay punctually every month your commitments with me. If you have that kind of regular capacity and you have already a commitment with 30%, 40%, 50%, then if the valuation is slightly less on at the time of completion, which rarely is the case,
I agree.
The mortgage will work.
Yeah, okay. What developers normally do, of course, with buying off plan is that developers, I'm thinking of one that is very well known, Taylor Wimpey. They always start at a very low price. So if you buy on day one of release, you pay this price, and then during construction, the price tends to go up until they're sold out. So normally they reward the early buyers, the off-plan buyers, by giving them more equity in their properties when it comes to completing. So that's the way it normally works. But I wanted to cover that final kind of loop. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.